So why the Out of the Darkness walk matters. I first heard about it in 2005. A friend of mine had lost his best friend to suicide, and he had done the walk in San Francisco, and it was just incredibly powerful for him. And ever since I heard about it, I knew I wanted to do it. And then fast forward to about 2 years ago, when I got out of the hospital. The registration fee for the walk was only $25. And so I decided I'd buy or whatever, pay for the registration and hope that somehow, miraculously, I'd get to go. And I mean, nobody read my blog at the time, but I put on my blog just, this is something I hope happens, and kind of prayed that someone in cyberspace would decide they wanted to make it happen for me. It turns out one of my very good friends was that person in cyberspace, and she, at the time, had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer and had done the Susan G. Komen 3-day walk, and it was a very, very powerful experience for her. And knowing my story, she decided that she was determined to get me to the walk, and so in 4 days I had plane ticket, hotels, most of the $1,000 you have to raise, most of that was raised, and yeah, she just made it happen. And so a couple months later, 3 months later, I flew out to Washington, D.C. and did the walk out there, my first one in 2013. And this is what I had written before that as far as why I was doing this walk. Number one, my life is not mine. I don't get to decide when I die, even though I hate that. And even when I have decided to kill myself, God keeps trumping my best efforts at doing so. I've been working on memorizing Psalm 143, and while in the hospital I got to verse 11. For your name's sake, Lord, preserve my life. I realize that if I'm going to memorize this, meditate on it, and pray it, I need to be willing to accept Him preserving my life. Not because I want God to preserve my life, but for His name's sake. I've devoted my entire life to pursuing and following Him. And if His will is for me to live, then I need to keep living. Number two, I am utterly convinced that at least part of why I have to continue living with mental illness, why I have experienced what I have experienced, why I have lived through attempts, why I need to keep going, is because God wants to use my voice and my story to support, and I wish I knew a better word than that, but those who live in a similar hell as me, and to educate those that don't. Those of us in this fight need to fight together, and the rest of the world needs to learn how to help us fight. And my voice is going to be part of making those things happen. This walk is a small part of me staying in the fight and raising my voice. And so I got to go to DC that summer, and I walked. I didn't know a single person, and it was just, I had no idea what to expect. It was a beautiful experience. Just before the walk, I wrote this. I think this walk symbolizes the faint but still present willingness I have to continue on in the fight, to walk through the darkness as long as it takes to find light, and to allow others to walk in the darkness with me, rather than expecting them to just wait for me where it is light. That I will trust that God has purposes in this, and therefore will keep praying, for your name's sake, Lord, preserve my life. And when I have no more fight in me, rather than ending my life, I will embrace Moses' words to Israel in Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. So this weekend I will, in a sense, take a pause in my journey and allot these few days to acknowledging, grieving, addressing, and fighting suicide for myself and for and with others. It will be a time to build an altar in the desert to remind me of God's faithfulness thus far in my journey, and His promised faithfulness throughout the rest of my journey. And so it was that, and I think a big thing I took away from the walk that first year was just the realization that if I'm walking, it means that I'm still here. It means that suicide didn't win that year. and no one's having to walk in memory of me. And I I don't know, it really struck me that if I'm doing this, it means that nobody else has to do it to remember me by. And this year I have the amazing opportunity. 4 friends are going to be walking with me, not remembering me, but alongside of me, and we get to do this together. And I think that's a really, really cool blessing. I did it alone the first year, and then a friend decided last minute to do it with me this past year. So, yeah, beyond just the personal connections to it, the stuff matters a lot to me too, because it's just huge. I believe the Association, or yeah, Association for Suicide, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they put on the walk, and they say that every minute of every day somebody attempts suicide, and every 14 minutes, just in the US, someone dies by suicide. Every 14 minutes. And that's only in the US. This is huge, and things aren't getting better, and it's just so little understood, and it's just, I mean, the bigger picture of the walk, for me personally, it feels like I'm walking, we start at dusk, and we walk through the night, and the sun is just starting to rise when you come to the finish line, and for me personally, that feels like this very tangible reminder of hope. Like, you have to walk through the night to see the dawn, and it will come, and his mercies are new and waiting in the next day. But tonight you walk, and as far as the walk, why they call it the Out of the Darkness walk is to bring these issues out of the darkness, these issues that people don't want to talk about and they don't want to admit are real, and therefore people are suffering alone, in every sense, to bring them into the light and to at least minimally get a conversation started. And so, I don't know, both of those images of coming out of the darkness into the light are pretty powerful to me. So, I guess that's a bit of why I do it. I could talk about why I do this walk for a long time, and just why I'm very passionate about sharing my story, in hopes of conversations starting, change happening, people finding community in the midst of deep pain, and not feeling the need to isolate or feeling judged or whatever. So that's why the walk.